All right, good morning, everyone. So can everybody hear me all right? All right, good. All right, so today I'm going to be giving the update on the Lake Huron, Lake Sturgeon Fish Community Objective. So I think the last time I gave this presentation was 2019, and some things have changed a little bit. So for sturgeon, that's pretty fast. So I'm excited to kind of share this talk with you all today. The first thing I wanted to get started is just thank everybody who contributed to this project. This just wasn't work that any one agency or group did. There was a lot of different agencies involved. So I threw some names up here on this slide and probably actually missed a few names too, but this is just kind of a group effort around lake sturgeon activities taking place around the basin. So for the Lake Sturgeon Fish Community Objective, it is to increase the abundance of lake sturgeon to the extent that the species is removed from its threatened status in U.S. waters and maintain or rehabilitate populations in Canadian waters. So there was a group of us that got together to start discussing lake sturgeon indicators, about a year ago. And one of the things that we first started doing was looking at other indicators of other lake systems, right? And some of the state of the lake reports that have been out there. And a couple of the metrics that consistently popped up were adult abundance and evidence of recruitment. I mean, that's pretty, self-explanatory, I'd say. And that all leads into kind of the number of self-sustaining populations that are in a lake. So that is one of the long-term indicator that we're kind of focusing on here is the number of self-sustaining populations. And I'm also going to talk about a short-term indicator as well. One of the caveats, I guess, to that is that some of these might not change for years, right? When you're talking number of self-sustaining lake sturgeon populations, or even decade of time. There's also some low confidence in this indicator due to spatial and temporal extent of sampling, right? There's a lot of tributaries in Lake Huron that historically contained lake sturgeon populations, and we just can't get to them all, right? So, and even when you can get to some, you might only be able to sample them for a year or two. So you don't really have that long-term sampling on all the tributaries that exist. So this is the long-term indicator that we came up with, and it's to maintain or increase the number of self-sustaining sturgeon populations. And we were not focused necessarily on status as much as trends over time, right? We do not present here whether or not the lake is in fair, poor, or good condition. I mean, it's still threatened, right, and throughout its range in Lake Huron, so we know it's in poor condition, but we're more focused on the trends over time. And what we defined as self-sustaining population was containing adults spawning within a major watershed and evidence of natural recruitment kind of consistently occurring. So you're going to basically see this map throughout the presentation. There's not going to be a lot of data in this presentation. It's more kind of I'm going to walk you around the lake a couple times and talk about these populations. So all of the yellow stars that you see on this map were historic lake sturgeon populations. It's estimated that there were 33 historic lake sturgeon populations in Lake Huron, and the lake contained about 75,000 to 350,000 spawning adults, and that was work that was published by Haxton and others in 2014. This is what we think exists now in regards to the number of self-sustaining populations, right? Where there are a large number of adults and evidence of natural recruitment. So 6 populations we believe currently exist in the lake as defined as self-sustaining. So the first one I'm going to talk about today is the St. Mary's River. There was a population assessment conducted in the St. Mary's River in the 2000s, and it was estimated that there was around 500 individual lake sturgeon in that system. Spawning was documented by Roseman and others in 2020, and we do have good evidence of annual recruitment in the St. Mary's River, and I'm going to talk about the St. Mary's River Fish Community assessment a little bit later, which is providing some evidence of that natural recruitment. All right, the next river that I'm going to talk about is the Mississauga River, and through some Pratt in 2008 estimated that there's around 500 individual lake sturgeon utilizing this system. Spawning surveys conducted in this system indicate that hundreds of lake sturgeon are captured. There is good evidence of natural recruitment, so this was another population that we considered self-sustaining. The Spanish River we don't have as much information on, but after some conversations with Ministry of Natural Resources biologists, it was determined that this probably is a self-sustaining population of lake sturgeon. In surveys that are conducted, over 50 adults are commonly captured, and there is good evidence of natural recruitment as well through some of those broad-scale monitoring surveys that others had shared yesterday. The Nottawasaga River, this one has kind of consistently been in this report, and it seems like there's a pretty good lake sturgeon population in this area. Spawning surveys have captured hundreds of lake sturgeon. There was an assessment conducted in 2010 to 2014 when 336 lake sturgeon were tagged, so that's quite a few fish for just 4 years of time. There's evidence of recruitment. Spawning locations have been identified through telemetry work. And there's also an ongoing telemetry study taking place in this system where both adult and juvenile lake sturgeon are being captured as well. So we have some, I guess, more contemporary evidence of recruitment and evidence of larger sturgeon population in the Nottawasaga. The Upper St. Clair River contains probably the largest lake sturgeon population for sure in Lake Huron. We estimate that there's around 20,000 individual lake sturgeon that utilize the area underneath the Blue Water bridges to spawn, not every year. This location is also the location where we collect lake sturgeon eggs for stocking around the Great Lakes and other systems, and annual recruitment has taken place. We have high evidence of that through larval drift surveys, through seeing juveniles in surveys, and there's even a lot of divers in this system, like looking at actually observing lake sturgeon spawning during late May and early June. The Black River system is also on this list. This is actually, they do not have access to the Great Lakes, but there is a larger lake sturgeon population in this area, 1,100 individuals. And annual recruitment has taken place. There's a lot of work that's going on in the Black River system, a lot of evidence of natural reproduction. So those are the 6 systems where we believe self-sustaining populations exist. And we do have a little bit more recent evidence as well for other populations in the lake. So these orange dots or stars on this map represent areas or tributaries where there's evidence of natural reproduction. We just don't have kind of those adult abundance metrics to say that there's self-sustaining populations in these areas. So the first one I wanted to talk about today was the Garden River. So in work that was conducted in 2016 to 2018, there were 65 adult sturgeon captured, primarily near the mouth of the Garden River in the St. Mary's River, kind of North Channel area. And 59 of those fish received acoustic transmitters. That work was done by the Garden River First Nation and AOFRC. And during that same time period, in 2016 to 2018, there was about 1,000 larvae that were captured as well. That's quite a few larvae, right? Every year, consistently being captured. So good evidence of natural recruitment. We just don't have the adult spawning numbers, kind of how many fish are migrating up that system every year. Some more contemporary evidence of spawning was collected by Fisheries and Oceans Canada in 2019. In the Moon and Musquash rivers, so this probably wasn't included in the last time I talked about the state of the lake for lake sturgeon, but adults are observed obviously in this system, and eggs and larvae have been collected, so that's some more recent evidence. And then also the Georgian Bay Biosphere and other groups in 2021 collected eggs and larvae in the Severn River, and adults are observed in that system as well. In 2023, the Little Traverse Bay bands of Odawa Indians detected lake sturgeon spawning in the Sturgeon River, a tributary to Burt Lake. Adults were obviously observed, migrating up this system. So all of these orange dots, I would say, are kind of like on our radar for potentially other self-sustaining populations of lake sturgeon. But like I said before, it's just kind of difficult to estimate N, right? That number of fish that are in that system to reach self-sustaining status. And I know that in other areas, we might have to just use some more qualitative, I guess, metrics to determine self-sustaining status. All right, for a short-term indicator, this one is not really that well refined, but I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. And one thing we're interested in is looking at juvenile trends in the lake over time. So we were trying to use existing survey data, and it's likely going to be specific to certain areas of the lake. So these black ovals that you see here are the areas that I'm going to be talking about today. And if you were here yesterday, you saw a lot of these same surveys discussed, right? The Michigan DNR Saginaw Bay Fish Community Survey is a really good survey for Saginaw Bay to detect trends in fish over time. There has been lake sturgeon stocking taking place in the Saginaw River since 2017, and about 6,000 fingerlings have been stocked in that system. So any increases in juvenile trends would likely be attributed to those stocking events. Then we have the St. Mary's River Fish Community Survey as well. That survey has been conducted since 1975. And then I just wanted to have one slide about the broad-scale monitoring program that's being conducted in the North Channel, Georgian Bay, and Main Basin. All right, so there were some graphs shown regarding the Saginaw Bay Fish Community Survey yesterday, but this survey, what we decided to look at for this indicator was the gillnet portion of this survey, and it dates back to 1989. You can see the length and the size of the gillnets there, and obviously mesh sizes are used that would capture juvenile lake sturgeon. 16 of these nets are set, half at index and half at random locations, and this is a pretty flat line there all the way up until 2021, right? So I think it's 21. Yeah, 2021 was the first time that the Michigan DNR captured juvenile lake sturgeon in this area. They were stocked fish that were stocked in the tributaries of the Saginaw. Another fish was captured in 2022. Nothing in 2023 as far as sturgeon go, but we are hopeful that this survey does serve as an indicator of how that Saginaw Bay population is doing. Another thing I wanted to point out, this really isn't an indicator. I think this assessment could serve not only just for the Saginaw River stocking events, but there were also the Augrey River and Rifle River in this location that historically contained lake sturgeon populations as well. So if anything were happening in those systems, hopefully we would see that detected in this survey. All right, the St. Mary's River Fish Community Survey. This is done periodically, about every 5 years or so. Similar size gill nets with mesh sizes that would detect juvenile lake sturgeon. There are 44 nets set in each survey, and this is done a multi-partner, multi-agency effort. And this one is pretty interesting. This has been on our radar for about 5 years now. And I only went back to 2002 with this data because there was a change in gear types. So you can see in 2002 and 2006, there weren't any juvenile lake sturgeon that were captured. In 2009 and 13, numbers started to inch up a little bit. And then in 2017, I think we really thought something was going on, and there were even more fish captured in 2022 in that effort. And this was just as many fish as were captured or equal to about numbers in the 1975 survey. So it does look like there's an increasing trend in juvenile abundance in the St. Mary's River system, and we actually do conduct other assessments in the St. Mary's River too, where we captured almost 100 juvenile sturgeon this year in that system, which was quite surprising. And I did want to point out this survey could also serve as not only an index of abundance for the St. Mary's system, but also there's the Echo, Garden, and Root River in this area as well. I just wanted to briefly touch on the broad-scale monitoring program. You kind of seen some slides on this yesterday in some presentations. These are the locations where nets have been set for the broad-scale monitoring program conducted by the Ministry of Natural Resources since 2014. The nets are a little bit smaller than were used in some of these other surveys as far as like length of net. But the mesh size is there that they would detect juvenile sturgeon, and I know they do. So we're hopefully going to investigate the use of this broad-scale monitoring program in the future to determine trends of juvenile sturgeon in the North Channel and Georgian Bay. So in summary here for the long-term indicator, there are 6 self-sustaining populations in Lake Huron, the St. Mary's, Mississauga, Spanish, Nottawasaga, St. Clair, and Black rivers. There's evidence of spawning and recruitment in 4 others: the garden, moon, musquash, severn, and sturgeon, and those are pretty new. That's like pretty recent on sturgeon life history for evidence of like natural reproduction. For our short-term indicator, it looks like juvenile trends are increasing in certain regions, primarily in Saginaw Bay due to stocking, but the St. Mary's River, there's no stocking that's taking place there. That would be all recruitment of natural reproduced fish. One of the caveats to this data is that this is only representing about a quarter of the historical tribs, right? I said there was 33 tributaries that contain self-sustaining populations, but in these areas, because we have to stick to these specific regions, we're not covering the whole lake that well yet, so we're hoping to incorporate some of these other surveys to get a better indicator of juvenile trends basin-wide. With that, I just wanted to share some photos. You guys have all we're along the Saginaw River right now, right? So we started stocking sturgeon in this system in 2017, and then here are some recent photos on social media of sturgeon being captured in the Saginaw River and Saginaw Bay.